A candidate who could be one of the wild cards in this race is jumping into the race, and his name is Eric Hovde, a Madison area businessman, and he joins me live on the line. Good morning. How are you, sir?
Good. Yourself, Charlie?
Good. Well, you are officially in the race today?
I'm officially announcing today my candidacy for the United States Senate.
Okay. Now, why don't talk a little bit about, I'm looking at some of the headlines here. One headline, successful bank executive Eric Hovde to enter U.S. Senate race. Out-of-state investment banker Eric Hovde to announce U.S. Senate race. Well, I'm going to get back to that in just a moment. But given the fact that we have a number of very strong candidates for the United States Senate, former governor, former congressman, the Speaker of the State Assembly, what do you bring to this race that Tommy Thompson, Mark Newman, and Jeff Fitzgerald do not?
I think probably the biggest thing, Charlie, is coming from the private sector and having that mindset. Albert Einstein had a great quote. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I think we're going to continue to send career politicians to Washington. We're going to get the same results. As a private sector guy who has had to manage a budget, make a payroll, know how to manage businesses, I think that's critical. I think we've seen how good Ron Johnson has done coming from the private sector. So I think that's a big thing. The other thing is, having spent my life in the capital markets and the financial markets, it's clear that so much of our problems today are coming from the financial sector and how Wall Street and the unholy alliance between Wall Street and Washington, D.C. is affecting this country. And so having somebody that understands those issues in federal monetary policies, which is causing gas prices and inflation on all our basic necessities to move up, and can talk about those and understand those concepts. So I think those are the two big things that I bring to the table.
Okay, now your critics and your opponents are going to say, okay, Eric Hovde, millionaire hedge fund manager, who's lived in Washington, D.C. for the last 20 years, comes back in here and he thinks he can run for the United States Senate. How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, I'm a third-generation Wisconsinite. I was born here. I was born here, raised here, went to public schools, went to the University of Wisconsin. I have come back and forth to Madison and Wisconsin nonstop. Not only am I a diehard Green Bay Packer fan, but I've had Badger season tickets for 20 years, and I have significant business and real estate holdings in the state. Secondly, I moved back this past summer largely because of I have a 13-year-old daughter that I always wanted to have the opportunity of having my kind of upbringing where she can jump on her bike and ride around the neighborhood and disappear instead of having my wife have to spend, hours in the car every day commuting around D.C. to all the different events. So I've never lost my roots with Wisconsin, far from it. As far as all these other titles, look, I'm your classic entrepreneur. My main business is community banks, but I have real estate. I've been involved in a technology company, an asset management business. So, everybody's going to want to grab some name, some title that they think serves their purposes.
Now you've been very highly critical of the Wall Street bailout and some of the things that have gone on in Wall Street. You are involved with some community banks. Did any of your banks receive any of the bailout TARP money?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I've been very critical. I've never lived in New York or worked on Wall Street. I've competed against Wall Street my whole life as a community banker. I've been appalled at how Wall Street has bought off Washington, D.C. Wall Street calls Washington, D.C. politicians cheap insurance. So they can get away with breaking our securities laws. And then when they get caught flat-footed, what happens? The politicians step up, bail them out with our taxpayer dollars. It has appalled me, and I think there's a complete lack of ethics and morals that have happened in this country, in Washington and in New York.
See, I think people are going to find you somewhat intriguing because on the one hand, you might look like the 1%, you're a hedge fund manager. On the other hand, you are probably the most outspoken critic of Wall Street and certainly of the Wall Street bailout of any of the candidates that we've had in Wisconsin for some time. So how are you going to explain that? I mean, are you a 1%er or a 99%er when it comes to the Wall Street bailout?
First of all, I don't like this whole class warfare. I think that is something that cynically President Obama is trying to push. I believe, that the American dream and a meritocracy and self-accomplishment. I'm very proud of what I've been able to accomplish in my life. As it pertains to Wall Street, I sat and watched firsthand unethical behavior, how they packaged up subprime mortgages, put them into products such as CDOs or credit default swaps, and help blow up the global economy and the American economy. And I'm angry about it because I've seen too many of my friends that have had to struggle with their businesses or foreclosure on their homes. So, both parties are bought off. And President Obama is using this whole 99-1, even though he received more money from Goldman Sachs and the guys on Wall Street than John McCain by a long shot. And we have, look who we have as our Treasury Secretary, Tim Geithner, who was in charge of the New York Fed and responsible for overseeing the mega banks on Wall Street while they did all these things, and now he's our Treasury Secretary. So I think it is the utmost in hypocrisy and cynicism how President Obama is playing this class warfare, even though he's the one taking all the money from Wall Street and his administration is loaded up with Wall Street people.
Okay, now you are pretty much unknown in Wisconsin politics, but then so was Ron Johnson at this point of the 2010 election. So one of the obvious questions is going to be, are you the next Ron Johnson? Is that an unfair question to you, and is that an unfair thing to ask about Ron Johnson as well?
I don't think it's unfair, but I'm my own man and Ron is his own man. The similarities are that we both come from the private sector. We both jumped into this never planning to get involved in politics. Ron was upset about Obamacare, as I am. I was just totally disgusted watching not only what happened with Wall Street, but then sitting around this past summer and watching politicians that couldn't even cut $1.5 trillion over the next decade when we're running $1.3 trillion deficit this past year. So, we have some of the same motivations, and we both come from the private sector, but I'm my own man. Ron is his own man. Okay,
now we're going to be hearing a lot more from you, and I know that you're going to be participating in our Insight 2012 program, which we're going to be taping with all of the other candidates. In fact, at least my understanding is this will probably be the first time that you're going to be on the stage with all these other guys. We're going to be doing that Monday night. People will be able to hear it on Tuesday. I'm looking forward to hearing that debate, and appreciate you joining me this morning. Eric Hovde, who's announcing that he's a candidate for the United States Senate.
Hey, thanks so much, Charlie. I really appreciate you having me on today. I look forward to the forum on Monday, and if anybody wants to get to know about, my Senate candidacy and my views, please go to ericforsenate.com. And I look forward to meeting the great people of Wisconsin over the next few months during this campaign.
Thanks for joining me. Appreciate it very much.
Hey,